before we do anything, we need to save. Control-Shift-S. Control-Shift-S. There it goes. Okay, and we're just going to save it to the next version. Alright. So now we have this primitive model thing going on here. What I need to do, basically, is just kind of further develop and connect the pieces. So, that being said, let's see how we're going about doing that. I have a couple of issues. One, right off the bat, is this. If we... Now, let's do this first. I'm going to work on the torso first, okay? So I'm just going to try and shape the torso to what the body is. Now, if you were to look at the body, you can see there's just clearly not enough geometry to support the shape, right? Like if I grab these top ones and scale them into the neck, you know what I mean? Then it becomes this. So what I need to do is I need to insert more edges to increase the resolution. So to do that, I'm just going to do it. Actually, you know, we'll do it in this view. I'm going to use a tool. So if you look, I'm going to try and basically every time that it is convexed or concaved, I'm going to try and change, I'm going to add an edge to it, okay? So I'm going to go to this. This is called the Multicut tool, okay? And then, okay, good. You might want to actually just make sure you have this object selected because it makes it a little bit easier. That way it's already like, and then click on it because it wasn't highlighted. Okay, so click on that. It's the Multicut tool. So by default, this is what it does. Don't do this, but it just lets you cut edges like willy-nilly. Come on. There you go. But this is really bad. Don't do that. But it's useful later on, but for right now, it's like you don't want to do that. But it has other functions in it as well that you can do. And you'll notice, too, I think I've mentioned this before, but whatever you do when you make things, we do whatever. Remember I was telling you before, if you hover over these, it tells you what it is down here. The tools, certain tools will have like steps you have to do in order to create them. The tools will actually have directions down here, too. So if you forget what they are, just go ahead and you can kind of see a little bit, although that doesn't give me all the stuff that I was hoping for. Okay. I want to draw an edge. So to draw an edge, if you hold Control, it will go all the way around. You probably can't tell there. Hang on a second. If I hold Control, it's going to go all the way through. And you go over the edge you want to cut through. So if I want to go this way, I hold it to here, okay? And if I want to go this way, I got to go onto this edge, all right? Okay. So in this one, I'm going to hold Control. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually have this bottom point. This is going to become the crotch line. I'm going to take this, and this is going to come here. So I'm going to put one right here where the hips will be, okay? And then I'm going to put one right here because the body kind of comes in. I'm going to put one at the base of the arms and one at the top of the arms. Okay, so I put in 1, 2, 3, and 4. Might need to add more. This is just to start with. Okay. Now that I have those in there, I'm going to go ahead and hit Q to get that tool off. You can hit Q, W, E, or R, and you'll no longer be using that tool. Now I'm going to right-click and hold and go to Vertex. I'm going to click and drag across these. I'm going to hit R for scale. I'm going to scale them inwards like this and maybe pull them down a little bit, okay? So that way I got like that underwear line. You could probably guess that's where the legs are going to come out. Again, I'm going to take this one. I'm going to hit R for scale, and I'm just going to grab it by the center here, okay? Or by these ones, not by the center. So I'm just going to pull it in so it roughly fits. This one might be able to go out a little bit like that, okay? This is pretty close, but, you know, scale it to whatever it needs to be. This one is also pretty okay. And then this one I need to scale pretty far down to get the neck, okay? All right, now let's go to the side view and basically do kind of the same thing. So I'm going to take this, and you got to remember this has got to be the crotch area. So I'm going to scale it in a little bit. Now, this is one of those things where if I were to look at this, I would think that the crotch should be down here a little bit farther. So you have to favor one view over the other because it's very unlikely that the pictures are going to line up perfect. And mine don't either. So, all right, so then we're going to take this and I'll scale it in a little bit. I'm going to move it a little bit this way. I'm going to take this one and I'm going to scale it in a little bit and then move it forward a little to try and get it to line up. And then this is supposed to be the base of the arms here. So I'm just going to go ahead and scale this one in a little, and that's actually pretty good. And then this is the top of the arm, so I'm just going to scale this in a little bit, maybe move it back a touch. and then this one was the neck, and I'm going to scale this one quite a bit. So you can see with the neck on this one, you can see it's a bit higher than it was on the other side. So I'm going to favor the front drawing over the side view drawing, okay? Inevitably, you don't even need to have any drawings. That wasn't even a word. Okay. Okay, so that looks a little bit better. So you can see that looks all right. Semi-acceptable. Great. Okay. Now, the other thing I need to do is this. I want to put these elements into this piece of geometry, okay? But there's a couple of problems with it. One is this. If we were to look at this, don't do this, I'm just showing you. This shape has to fit into this shape. I don't know if you notice, but basically the idea is that you need to take each one of these verts. I wonder if it'll let me snap. It won't. Each one of these verts, right? They've got to snap to here, okay? So it merges. But you can see here, I have 8, and here, I have 4. So I do not have the same amount of resolution in the one as the other, okay? So what I need to do is I need to up this thing's resolution in order to have enough where this is going to be a hole for it to fit into, okay? So before I even do that, though, in order for them to combine, you actually have to make a hole there so that you don't want to have faces inside, right? Like if you were to look at my arm, right, there's not skin on the inside of my arm, right? It just goes right across. It's the same thing here. You want this to come straight across. So this is also going to have a hole. We'll do that in a second. And actually, I just breezed over how to do that too. Sorry. So we're going to need to make a hole here so that it'll all be one thing. Okay, so let's go ahead and cut the holes. We'll just cut both of these. So I'm going to right-click, go down to face. Click on this one. I'm going to hold Shift, click on this one where my 2 leg holes are, and just hit delete. It'll delete those faces. I'm going to go up here where my arm hole is going to be, and you can do the other one too if you want. We actually don't need to do the other one because we're going to mirror it, but just for the sake of making things easier for you. And then I'm going to go to my neck hole and click on that one. Notice I have to navigate and move around to get there. And then I'll hit delete. Good. So now I have a neck hole, I have arm holes, and whatever. So one of the things that you end up doing when you're modeling is this. So if you look, this head is meant to be a sphere, but it doesn't look very spherical, does it? It's very what we call faceted, which means you can see the faces on the model, which is no bueno. So in order to support that to look more round, there's a couple things we can do, but the main one is basically in here they call it polysmooth, but basically it means subdivide the model. So you take the amount of geometry that's here and you are going to not double it, you're going to square it. So basically wherever there's one face, it'll be cut in both ways. So when I have it selected, don't do this, I'm just showing you, and I click on this, it's going to polysmooth the model, and now you can see it doesn't look so bad, especially from here, okay? Now when you get closer and there's fewer polys in screen, you can start to see the faceting again. But from a distance, and even this one, if this had, hang on a second, mesh display, like that, but once I get to a certain point, I can start to see the faces again. And you probably played video games because they try to keep it lower poly. You probably have seen the faces. There's cheats that they do in order to make it not so obvious. But what that does is it basically will cut it twice. Now what you will notice is, again, this is 4, this is 8, 4, 8, and then this one's also 8, and this one's also 4. So I can both, and also this looks crappy, right? I can do 2 things at once. I'm going to have it selected, and then I'm going to hit this button here, which is Polysmooth, or you go to Mesh Tool, or sorry, Mesh, where are you? Smooth, okay? And it's going to do that. And basically, it's going to, cut it in all pieces. Now, it's not going to be 100% perfect. We'll have to manipulate the things a little bit. But now, at least, it has the holes and such that we need in order to combine our pieces together, which is cool. Okay. All right. So we've got the thing here. We got the thing there. That's looking all acceptable. So let's go ahead and just get these pieces all together so it's all one piece, which would be awesome. Okay. So to do that, I want to put this guy into here. And now if you look, you can see it is equivalent, right? All of these vertices, all of these edges have places to go. But again, I have to get rid of the top of this. I'm going to right click, go to face, and I want to remove all of this. Now I can do this a couple different ways. I could click, delete, click, delete, click, delete. That's annoying, okay? Because that's a lot of clicking. I could do it this way. I could click over the whole part, but you see how it also selected these? But what I could do afterwards is, if I hold Control, you see how my cursor has a little minus symbol on it? If that means only unselect. So if I hold Control and just click and drag across this part, it leaves this. And I can quickly hit 4 just to make sure that that was all that's selected, and then hit back to 5. Okay? That's another way of doing it. And then if you remember, Shift is toggle select. So that would actually work too. It'll do the opposite of whatever is currently selected. Control and Shift will only add. Okay, so Shift is toggle, Control is only remove from selection, and Control Shift is only add to selection. And then the last way to do it, which is the way I'm going to do it right now, is that when I go to select this, if you hold the Tab key, you see it goes like this. It turns into what we call Paint Select. And I'm just going to click and drag and then let go. And then that's my selection, and I'll hit delete. There's a million ways to do everything. I'm just probably showed too many. Sorry. Okay. So now we got that going on. That's a thing. So I'm going to right click, drag up to object mode. And I'm going to go ahead and stick this up here. And rather than even trying to match it to my drawing, because if you look, I didn't really leave any like crotch space here, which is going to make it kind of difficult. So I'm going to actually just scale this like a little bit smaller than it's supposed to be. So I'm just going to go ahead and scale it down a little, and I'm going to move it up and over a little. And I'm going to move it back just so that it's kind of basically centered on this. Okay, so now I want to combine these two. A couple ways we can do this as well. I could merge the vertices, which would be a little bit more difficult, or I can just bridge it. All right, so, but if you look, these are separate models, okay? And as such, if you remember, this model has vertices, right? These are its vertices. Those are its vertices. This one, these are its vertices. They cannot share vertices. So in order for them to be able to merge or combine geometry, they actually have to be combined as objects. People do this all the time, and they keep like, it's not merging, and this is why. Before I can combine them, merge them together, I actually have to do combine. So select both objects. They're both separate models. They each have their own name, right? I need to make them one name. So select them both, and then you can click on this. This is Mesh Combine, or you go to Mesh Combine. And now you'll see it has one name. It shares the same name, and it's just this one. So now, whenever I do anything to one, now they can share components. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click, go to Edge. I'm going to double-click this edge loop. All right, so if you double-click an edge loop, it goes all the way around. I'm going to hit Q, so I just have the select tool, so I don't have the manipulator in the way. I'm going to hold Shift and double-click this edge loop. So now I have both selected. Okay. He's a big boy. Okay, I have them both selected, and then I'm just going to hit this button here, which is Bridge. Or you could go to Edit Mesh, Bridge. Okay? And then we're going to bridge it. My least favorite cousin. Okay. Now she's fine. Oh, I didn't actually hit Bridge. Doop. And then it bridges it. Woo. So basically what it does is it just creates a face in between alike edges. Now, if yours looks weird, like if it got twisted or something, there are some options here for like twist, for instance. So you could try to twist it till it matches up. If yours isn't working, what that means that you probably don't have the same number of edges selected on both sides. That there's something messed up that way. Okay? And now, that is officially combined. Woo. Yay. And we're going to do the same thing, basically, for these other elements. Okay? So I'm going to select this. Now you can see, I'm having kind of a hard time to get in there, right? Now I can move this over and then select them and do it. Or, another thing I can do is this. This is useful. I can select it, and if you hit Shift-I, same thing as doing this. You go to Show, Isolate Selected, and then you can choose View. Is it this one? I guess View Selected? Okay. That's Isolate Selected. I usually just hit Shift-I. So you click on it, and then you hit Shift-I, And then you'll see on the bottom now it says isolate perspective. If you want to bring everything back, you click off, have nothing selected, and hit Shift-I. Okay? So it's a nice way of, it's just all it's doing is making everything else invisible but that thing. So now I'm going to do the same thing here. I just need to, I'm going to go to my faces. I'm going to hold tab, click and drag across, and hit delete. The nice thing is when you do paint select, is that like if I go like this, you see it doesn't actually click through. Okay, so I'll have nothing selected, hit Shift-I, and everything comes back. Okay, so now I'm going to select both of these, and then again I'm going to click on this, Mesh Combine. I'm going to go to Edges, double click this edge loop, going to hold Shift, double click this edge loop. Probably should have adjusted this arm a little bit first. Oh well. Yeah, let's go ahead and do it this way. There's another way of doing it, but I think I'm just going to, I'll show you on the last one how to do it the other way. And then we're going to hit Bridge. Boop. And now it bridged those two pieces. And again, use that twist if for some reason it's not the right direction. Okay, great. Yay! Okay, so there's the arm. Next is the head. I'm going to do the same trick I did before. I'm going to Shift-I, and then I'm just going to get rid of these. I'm going to right-click, go down. I'm going to hold Tab, and delete. Okay? And then hit Shift-I. I don't have any components selected, so it's like I have nothing selected. So that's why even though it's highlighted, it still works. If I grab faces and hit Shift-I, it'll isolate those faces. So, just so you get the idea. Come on. There we go. Alright, so now we got to do the same thing. I want to take this, and I basically want to merge it to this. Okay, so I'm going to click on this, and do Mesh Combine before we can merge them. Okay. Now, I'm going to do this a little bit differently just to show you another tool, because there's different ways of doing things. We're going to merge the vertices. So instead of lofting, or bridging across them, I'm just going to merge the vertices. Okay, so we're going to right-click, go to Vertex. You actually don't have to click that first. You can keep it in object mode if you want to, but I think it's easier if you do that first. And then you'll see this here. This is called Target Weld, or if you go to Mesh Tools, Target Weld. Okay, so click on that. And then what you want to do is start on the center one, so that way you know you're lining up. See how like there's clearly a center line here and clearly a center line here? That way you know you lined them up right. So I'm going to, what you want to do this for me too actually. Click on this, the tool settings, okay? And then I'm just going to, guess I got to go here. What was this? Why is it not snapping in? Alright, whatever. So you'll see there's target and there's center. So the difference between these are this. If it's on target, it's going to go from here and it's going to pull it down to this one. You see what happened? It took the one I grabbed and dragged it down here. If it's on center, it'll go halfway between. You actually see that little green dot in the middle of it? See that? It's going to go right here. Okay? For this, I want you to keep it on target, and we're just going to drag this down to this one. So we want to go from the center to the center one, like that. Make sure it's the center one. And then I'm just going to go ahead and do that all the way across. So I'm going to go to the next one down, next one down, next one down, next one down. Now, you can see, still this is straight. And just go zip it from one direction, just work your way around. Now, if you end up and you have an extra one or something, then, you know, undo. Control-Z. It's actually just Z in Maya, but Control-Z or Command-Z works the same, so just keep hitting that anyway, just so that you don't mess up your hotkeys for other programs. Okay, so now you can see we've got that going on. That's the thing that happened. Yay! I'm going to hit Q just to get rid of that tool. I'm going to right-click, go to Object Mode, and good. So now we have sort of a body-ish sort of thing. Let's go ahead and flip it, because right now he doesn't really have an other side, okay? So what we're going to do is I'm going to, let's see. Yeah, let's go ahead and flip it. Okay, so I'm going to tap spacebar. I'm going to go to face. So right click, drag down to face. And I want you to click and drag half the body. So see how there's this center line here? There's the center line right down the center. Right? This is the center line. I want to get as close as I can without touching this side. So I'm going to go over here like this and then hit delete. If you have any extra little nublets up here, right, any nuts sticking out, just go ahead and click and drag over them and delete them so that it's nice and straight. And you might want to look over here to make sure that it's all on the hunky dories. Okay? Just make sure there's a nice clean line all the way around. Alright, now mine is straight, but there's a chance that you might have screwed up and it's not straight. So I'm just going to show you how to fix that center line in case it's not perfectly straight. I'm going to right click, go to edge. I want you to double click on the edge. Okay? So just double click on the center edge, go all the way around, right? I want you to hit R for scale, and then you're going to scale it like this. You're going to take this square, the one that's perpendicular to our line, and scale it like this. What that's going to do is it's going to take the line, if it's jaggy, and flatten it, okay? It's the same thing as like if I took this, right? If I scale it enough to 0, see how eventually it becomes flat? Right? That's what we're doing. Again, just to show you, let's say for some reason, you know, I'm a bad modeler and these are all crooked or something, right? So see how the center line's not straight? If I double click on this line, if I can do it, there we go. And if I hit R for scale, see it straightens it. That's what we're doing, okay? So grab this and go like this. It might not look like it's doing much. It might be very super subtle. It might not do anything. Mine's already straight, so it's not doing anything. But like that. Then the other thing we need to do is make sure that this is on origin, okay? So origin is this line right here, okay? That's 0. 0 in the X space. So after you scale it this way, hit W for the move tool. And then what you want to do is we want to grid snap it, okay? So there's different kinds. There's point snap, grid snap, curve snap. To grid snap, you hold X. You can see it turns into like a little circle, a little manipulator. And I just want you to pull it over and pull it back until it's snapped to the center. And now you know that that line, that one line is perfectly centered. Now, the next thing we need to do is I want you to right click and go to object mode. Okay. I need to flip this, okay? So inevitably what we want to do is this. I want to take this guy, because we're going to flip him. Control D. Don't do this. I'm just showing you. I'm going to bring him over here, and then we're going to scale him like this so that you have the other half. Maybe it would have been more obvious to do it up here. Come on. Right? We're going to duplicate it and scale it -1 perfectly, and then it will sandwich together, okay? But what you notice is the pivot is in his armpit. So when it scales from that position. That's not very good. So what we're going to do is while we're still in this view, we want to move the pivot. So you're going to hold D, okay? And then we want to point snap. So D like dead dog, and then V like very voracious vagabond, okay? So D and V, hold them both at the same time, and click and drag it over here, okay? So the D allows you to move the pivot, right? So now my pivot's here. When I go to scale or whatever, it scales from that position. That's what the D did. The V is point snap. So if I hold D and V, you can see, come on, see how it's snapping to each one of these vertice points? That's why we did D and V, okay? So now that's perfectly on the center of the model. The model's perfectly centered here. And now we can duplicate it and flip it. Now, again, don't do this. I just want to show you. This is what we're looking to do. I'm looking to duplicate it, and then on my scale X, type in -1. Because basically -1 is the flip of that, okay? But we do this so often because we're always making things and we have to flip it from one side to the other. It's a good idea to just make it like a special duplicate. So I'm gonna. So what you want to do is select the model, go to Edit. Duplicate is what we've been doing. If you see this Duplicate Special, that's the one we want. Hit the option box. So we're gonna make it an instance. So go ahead and choose instance, and then you can see parent, whatever. That's fine. You can see right here it has translate, rotate, and scale. Basically what it's going to do is it's going to take whatever and it's going to duplicate it and then apply. You can have it apply like a rotation, so it'll duplicate, and every duplicate gets rotate. Like you can make, right now the number is, let's say the number, let's make it 10, and I can take this rotation, so X, Y. Let's do 30 degrees. Now watch. It's going to duplicate it, and every time it's going to make 10 duplicates, and every one of them is going to be 30 degrees more. So you can kind of use that to make like neat things. That was weird. Okay, I've never seen it do that before. So anyway, this is actually the first time I've used 2020. We don't want that though. What we want to do is just set up that, you notice there's 3 numbers, 3 axes, X, Y, and Z. So I want to, because my Z is my depth, I want it to be X. So I want it to be the first one. You're going to type in -1. Make sure this is 1 as well. And then hit duplicate special. And you're going to see it's going to make a duplicate special. Go ahead and delete that. And just hit Control-Shift-D. Now every time that we need to take something and flip it and duplicate it on the X-axis, we just hit Control-Shift-D. We can use that forever now, which is super useful. Okay. Now you'll notice that we did instance and not copy. The reason why is that now when I grab this side, it does it to the other side. It's an instance of it, which means this does not exist on its own. It's merely a reflection of this one. So that's kind of neat. Cool. So let's go ahead and actually just combine these so that they're one piece anyway, and then I can show you how to do symmetry and stuff. Okay, so select both of them. Just do mesh combine. Now it's going to look like they're combined, but if you actually see that the vertices are not merged, they're just because they're literally in the same spot, they look like they are. So to merge them, you're going to click and drag over the whole guy, and then you're going to go edit mesh, merge, option box. Now you're going to see it has a threshold. Right now it says 0.01. Okay, what that number is referring to is this. Each one of these is a unit. So if it's 0.01, that means it's 1/10 of a unit. Oh no, 0.1 would be 1/10. 1/100th? I guess it's 1/100th of a unit. Okay, which means it needs to be within that realm. Believe it or not, that's actually probably, right now it'll probably be fine. It'll merge fine. But just so that we have our default setting not set to that, just make it 0.001. Basically, it means it has to be within 1,000th, and by being 1,000th, we'll make sure that it's perfect. Like, it has to be right on top of each other. Like, it has to be right next to it in order for it to merge. And then hit merge. So what it's going to do is every vertex that's that close to each other, it's going to automatically merge. So now if I were to grab one, you can see it's not part of it. Okay? Now let's turn this back off. All right. And now we have a shell of a person. And that looks pretty okay. So we're going to go ahead and save this, Control-Shift-S, and we'll say this is number 3. And then yeah, we'll call that good. So this is going to be a shorter series. When you're done with this, what you're going to want to do is just save it. You can close out of it. And then you have that thing. It should say your last name, not my last name. Cone_film. You're just going to right click on it. And then it'll be compressed if you're on a Mac. But on a PC, you go send to, compress zip folder. And you're going to give me that folder. Do not give me just the Maya binary folder. Okay? And hang on to this. This thing is your whole project. So you're going to be using that over and over again. Alright? So you're just going to submit that. And that would be it. Yeah, so good luck. I hope you got that okay. Next week, it'll be a bit more because we're going to basically do the body. So we'll have to make the feet. We'll have to make the hands. The hands are going to be fun. Okay? But it'll be more of the same. You'll see we only use a couple of tools. I know it seemed like we did a lot of different tools. It'll become second nature. It'll become easier. Okay? So we're literally going to... There are other tools out there. There's a bunch of them. But honestly, we'll only really probably use the ones I showed you today for the most part. They're almost the only ones I use. So we'll, good luck.